Hello, everybody. We got a exciting brand new Catalyst Conundrum, episode 12. What is speed? And how do you go fast? What I'm going to ask you to do is look for patterns. I'm going to ask you about patterns, lean into it, have fun with it, see if you can recognize the patterns throughout this particular video. As always, we're centering on this concept. Let it absorb. Maybe pause this for a little bit to get your mind in the right mode to listen and hear what I'm about to share with you. It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Why not have beginner's mind about speed? So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what does speed mean to you? There's some silence there. What I hope you did is you blurted out. By now, you're learning that to blurt out answers. If you're not doing that, you got to get into that mode, man. Blurt out answers. What does it mean to you? If it's a hard question to answer, that's even more of a reason to get it out of your mouth, out of your head. Don't think, don't pause, act, do. Got to take action. What does speed mean to you? Well, let's start and review something that we've reviewed before, and let's watch this together.
On the left, bagging and hood.
Hood, okay.
Garnish. This is burger finish.
Got it.
And then this is burger slide. We could just move those.
Okay.
Multi-mixer soft drinks.
Okay.
We bring out our whole staff, and
What is this? What's happening here?
we have them go through the motions, making pretend burgers and fries.
All right, Steve, anticipate that. You got to keep the tray level.
Does the bumping in and not knowing what to do, does that relate with you now more than it did when we first reviewed this?
Okay.
And Dick is running around with this stick, marking where all the equipment should be.
Tuck in. Tony, are you going to skip the pickles when we're really doing it?
They do it over and over, hashing it out, choreographing it like some crazy burger ballet.
What's going on over there?
Choreating it like a crazy burger ballet.
Yes. No. No. Everybody stop! Stop! Garnish 1. Garnish 2. You've got pickles, you've got onions. It's a goddamn hamburger.
You got pickles, you got onions. It's a goddamn hamburger. You got a header, you have a body, and you have a conclusion. It's a goddamn slide.
Come on, clear off.
Let's clear it off. It's time for the pink chalk. And then rip your orange. See all this open space here now? We've rearranged the fry situation, so now it's stage left, the deep fryer stage right. Begin. That's great. Come on, guys.
They're pretty tied up here.
Yeah, watch it.
The Lazy Susan.
It's the timing of the Lazy Susan. Those are finished.
It's the timing. Did you hear that? It's the timing.
Burgers, you can't. Hold it. I still think there's a third version.
I still think there's a third version. Iteration.
What do you want to move?
I want to move everything. Back to stage left, please.
I think we got it all drawn. This is better.
Is that all right?
I think so. I guess let's assume our battle stations.
Okay, okay.
Finally, after about 6 hours of this, we get it just right.
Finally, after about 6 hours of this, of what are they practicing?
A symphony of efficiency, not a wasted motion.
A symphony of efficiency, not a wasted motion. Are you aware of the motions that you're taking? How does this have anything to do with the emotion and the mindfulness stuff that we've been talking about.
Good form, Jasper. Feel good about those pickles. Catch up. Use your lazy Susan. Put your back into it, Seth. And pickles and pickle and mustard.
Hear the rhythm?
We take the layout to a builder, custom build the kitchen to our exact specs.
Ta-da, the Speed D system is born, the world's first ever system to deliver food fast. It is totally revolutionary.
So today's conundrum is brought to you by the word technique. Technique, a way of carrying out a particular task, a way of carrying out a particular task. We need to have ways of how we do things too and be aware of that, especially the execution of a performance of an artistic work or a scientific procedure. Now, isn't that interesting? What's a performance? Artistic, is that storytelling, stories, movie, embracing that this is a hero's journey, running the project like it's a movie? Scientific procedure, is that not the scientific process? Technique, technique, technique. So in this conundrum, we're going to learn who this guy is. His name's Jason Lizark. Have you heard of him? We're going to put that in the side, and I'm doing that on purpose because I want to have a little bit of thing occupying your brain so you don't watch this too heavily. I need curiosity going on in your head. So we're going to come back to who this person is. And we're going to remind you that we're working on the principles. It's the experience stupid. What does that mean to you now? Lead with you. What does that mean to you now? Be heroic, or in other words, have courage. What does that mean to you now? Trust the process. What does that mean to you now? What are you doing to help make the process less ambiguous and more clear? How do you curate conflict so that we can get to yes quickly? Without conflict, nothing happens. There's no action in a story without conflict. There's nothing to propel innovation without conflict. Necessity is the motherhood of invention. We need to create more conflict. Connect the dots. Be an orchestrator. What dots are you connecting? Are you even asking what dots need to be connected? How can you be orchestrated if you're not even curious about what dots you need to be connected instead of just assuming? It's about getting it right, not being right. So we're going to talk about Formula One right now, and I'm going to show you another video. Actually, I'm going to show two back to back. They are going to be unbelievably quick. Now, the reason that the videos that I'm going to show from here on out in this video are real world examples. So they're not going to be as easy to discern, but I don't even think we're fully appreciating just that clip from Founders, which has been produced. There was music in there to help you pay attention that they're finally getting it. They have the screens, they have the acting. All of it is staged to help you see and get a feeling of what really happened. But now we have to shape that world and be able to see it in the real world. And this is one of the skills I think we have to develop. The information that we have is all around us. Go back and listen to the Alexis calls and see if you can see what the story is and pull it out and extract it to talk about it. Because if not, it just blurs. And that's what the reason we're talking about blur is obviously speed. Things are happening way too quickly for us to process it. How do we learn how to pay attention? So we're going to watch two videos real quickly. The first one is sort of a live feed. Well, the first one is some context. Now, actually, we're going to start with the live feed. We're going to do this one first. This is the fastest pit stop in the world, in the history of the world. And we're going to watch it in real time. You ready for it? Here we go. And it's from the driver's perspective. Are you ready? Okay. There, it's over. Did you catch it? Here's another view of the same thing. Catch it? Catch it? Here's it in slow motion. Did you catch it? Can you describe what happened? That team just set a world record. 1.88 seconds in doing a pit stop. 1.88 seconds. Did you catch it? How much stuff happened? So let's do another video here. Maybe this will help explain some things. Oh, did that one, did that one. Oh, this one. F1 pit stop, what we just watched. Nearly 20 people involved. These are the facts. It's always important that you collect the facts. Isn't this like taking inventory? You must always take inventory and list it out cleanly like this. The more you do that, the more you're going to be able to go fast. This is technique, but just look at what's happening here. All right, done. Did you catch it? See, this is why it's so important. I want you have a role of just the tire guy. If you were looking at it only from the tires, you'd actually be able to see what's happening. But if you're trying to process everything that's happening, you're not going to get it. It's impossible. This is what a team actually looks like and works like. Okay, now here's the NASCAR one. There's 6 people. So yes, many, many fewer. 2 tire changes. They have to refuel. There are 5 lug nuts per wheel. And the time that this is going to take is 8.2 seconds. So slower, more parts, 5 lug nuts per wheel versus 1. Okay, let's watch what happens here. Now, try to watch it. Maybe you go back and watch it again, watch it in the whole and try to see everything that's going on. And then just pick one of the people and watch just only what they do and try to block out everything else. It's incredibly important that you understand that concept and learn how to be with it. You have to work within an overall orchestrated environment. You have to do your own role, and you've got to be able to pick out the information that's happening so you can move at speed. This is technique. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? .4 seconds is the average time of a Formula One pit stop. 2.4 seconds. The world record is 1.8 seconds. That's 25% faster than the average. What does that get you? 12 yards at speeds of 300 miles or 200 miles an hour. How much distance is 12 yards in a race like that? Now, one thing that's important to notice, this is pulled from an article around the subject, how 100,000. Just let that sink in. 100,000. That's roughly how many practice pit stop Formula One 10 teams did between them. So Formula One's 10 teams did about 100,000 practice pit stops between them in 2019, the year that the 1.8 record was set. The aim isn't to get under 2 seconds, which is less than the blink of an eye, but to do so consistently, that becomes the expected mean. Think about that. How are you going to do that without technique? Doesn't that require a lot of discipline and a lot of orchestration? Didn't we see that in the Speedy system? How do we get more curious about what that should look like? Why do we resist following the kinds of techniques we're trying to implement and put into action? It's very fascinating, isn't it? So we're going to go through another example, and this is going to be even harder to watch in real life. Who's this person? Do you know? Well, it's Usain Bolt, and what we're going to watch is the first time he set the world record at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. This is a treat.
And a fair start, Asafa Powell. Usain Bolt is also out well. Here they come down the track. Usain Bolt sprinting ahead, winning by daylight.
You remember
And setting
seeing this?
a world record, 9.68. The wind is okay. New world record. How easy was that?
Tom Hammond, the 100 meters is right.
How easy was that? Is what they actually said. Did you catch it? What happened? Were you able to process it? Or did that guy run fast and that you can't run fast? Was he just born to be able to do that? How much training did he work? What sort of technique was involved? That's what we're going to talk about here. What's interesting is, so look, there's kinetics. Remember me mentioning kinesiology? Was the study of motion. And obviously in 2009, he set the world record again, which became a 1/10 of a second faster. So let's ignore that for a second. You just watched the Olympic record, and there's going to be a reason why we brought the 2008 Olympics again. But what you're looking at here is his stride. His stride is his technique. There are other techniques involved too, but this is what's being measured here. What you're able to do is measure Usain Bolt's average stride length in the race. So each stride he takes in a cycle, 2.47 meters. The other finalists, these are all that's the thing. He's blowing these people away. And these people are the fastest people in the world. They make NFL players look slow. These people are so incredibly fast. And look at that. He's almost got, he's got a huge advantage just in terms of his stride. And because of that, he takes fewer strides, 40 strides to 44 strides. So I asked you what speed is. Do you think speed is just turning things around really, really, really fast? No. No. This is evidence of less is more. If you take fewer strides, you go faster. I want you to pay attention to that for our next example. Fewer is more. Now, the other thing I want you to pay attention to, oops. Oh, I don't have the other example, shoot. Dang it, I took it out. Okay. So now we're going to fast forward. Who's this? This is actually me. This is me in 1989. And I'm getting ready for a race against Clemson. This is actually Clemson. I kid you not. This is at Clemson. And if you didn't know, I was a pretty good swimmer. And we're going to talk about swimming now, obviously. And this is a picture one of my friends took just 2 years ago. And you can see I still have a high school record for 100 fly. And that record from 1988 to 2018 is 30 years old. So this is, I'm trying to give you a frame of reference that is relatable instead of world record stuff, because we're looking at world records and the thing like that, something that's relatable. But 30 years is a really long time for a record to not get broken. And the reason I want to frame that out is we're going to fast forward this in. Now my stroke was butterfly, but we're going to talk now about freestyle. And specifically, we're going to talk about the 100-meter freestyle, which these are the dimensions. So think about the Speedy system. There's something to spec. So what's beautiful about swimming and most other events, most other sporting events, there's an environment that you have to work within, and it's set. The swimming pool has this dimension for width. It must have this dimension for width, for length, this dimension for width. There must be between 8 or 10. In this case, this has 10. The reason we're doing 10 is Beijing had 10. And then there's a depth. It must be a minimum of 2 meters depth completely across. A official pool doesn't have varied depth. There is a standard depth. And then there's a specific way that your the crosses, this is what goes on this dimension here. It must look this way, always. There's a standard way for crosses so that you know where to turn so you can see. So these are the dimensions of the pool. Now, what we're going to talk about is before 2008. This is the history books of world records for that 100 meters. So the 100 meters is this here, this starting point here, a flip turn here, and then you come back and you finish here. You have blocks. You have right here, there are starting blocks, and that's it. The clock starts when the starter, which is a role that I do volunteer for swim, you start it, and then that's when the electronic clock starts. And these things are electronic pads that people touch. Okay. During this period of time, what we're looking at is the 34th official record of this distance. We're picking up Rowdy Gaines. I want you to remember that name because we're going to listen to Rowdy Gaines talk, and it's awesome. And look at the date. In April of 1981, Rowdy Gaines swam that distance in 49.36 seconds, which is amazingly fast. Then Matt Biondi broke his own record, his own world record, a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now, interesting side note, I actually swam in the same heat, in the same race as Matt Biondi in the 100 fly. You can ask me about that if you want, but that's sort of interesting. And then you can see these other people. So it went from 49 seconds to 47 seconds between 1981 and the year 2000. no records had been broken up until 2008. So this is it. This is the status. The world record going into the year 2008 was 47.8. 47.8. Write it down if you need to. 47.8. 47.84 actually. Okay. It's important. Okay. For 27 years, the world record had been was only broken 8 times. Through 27 years, the world record was only broken 8 times. There's only been 5 record holders during that period of time. And the amount of total time shaved from for that 27-year period of time was 1.52 seconds. That's it. Or that's a lot, depending on how you look at it, right? 1.52 seconds shaved. Etch that in your brain. So this is Rowdy Gaines. I want you to remember him. There's Matt Biondi. This is what these people look like. Okay, pretty exciting to set a world record, I bet. Okay, now what we're going to do is I want you to sort of imagine it's 2008 and it's the Beijing Olympics. Hopefully you can remember some of that. If not, this is where we're going now in our story. This is the venue. So remember our architecture diagram? This is the physical environment. Now, by the way, I'm foreshadowing, there's other reasons I'm bringing this up. Please pay attention that we're listing out that there's a physical environment here. Does this make you experience the diagrams a little bit more? You can see it more, but you need a diagram first. Look at everything that's here. This is the scene. This is the setting. It's 2008. What we're going to talk about is the 4x100 men's relay. And basically what that means is you have 4 swimmers, each of whom are going to swim that 100 freestyle leg. That's what's happening. And that's what we're going to talk about. The US, the US has dominated the global swimming world for a long time. As a matter of fact, in the 70s, the International Olympic Committee prevented the United States from sending 3 swimmers because we would get gold, silver, bronze all of the time. So if you notice, we can have multiple people in the finals for track and field, for example. But in swimming, we only get 2. That's it, only 2. And it's because the USA has dominated it so much. But by 2008, something was really, really wrong because we have not won the gold. So we're like, you know, in swimming, the pressure on US swimmers is even higher. The bar is even higher than the basketball because we've just been so dominant. And the USA hadn't won the gold in this event since 1996. It's 2008, guys. France, of all countries, was the heavy favorite. Let's learn a little bit about France. So what had happened during this time, 2008? Boom. This guy, Alan Bernard, broke the world record twice, back to back, at the European Championships. These are the things that qualify you to go to the Olympics. Look at those times. So we went from 47.84 to 47.6, and then he shaved it off again himself, 47.5. So he's the first person since Matt Biondi in 1988, so 20 years, the first person in 20 years to break back to back, break his own world record, back to back. First time in 20 years. This is what we have going into it. Just so you know, this is what he looks like. This is Alan Bernard. Now, going into this and going into that, of course, the Olympics have a lot of press coverage. He was actually asked about what they saw, and this is a direct quote. The Americans, we're going to smash them. That's what we came here for. So yes, the US was getting smack talked by the French. The French were getting smack talked. So I want you to keep this in mind. This is really important, all of the context that I'm setting up so that you can get more curious about time and speed and what goes into it. 47.5 is the world record now, at this moment in time, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. What we're going to do is really look at what's behind the story. This is the 4x100 relay. And in case you didn't know this about swimming, they seed. So lane 4 is the fastest. Lane 5, they go lane 4, then 5, then 3. This is how they do it. So the fastest people are always in the middle. The slower people are on the outside. That's how it works. Okay. This is the setting. 47.5 is the world record. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to watch some of that, and then we're going to watch it without audio. And then we're going to watch the last leg. The reason that I'm going to highlight it out is the swimmer in lane 3 over here, the leadoff swimmer here. He set the world record coming off of going a 47.2. This is how fast this relay, this whole race was. By the way, in swimming, this is considered the greatest, most amazing race in its entire history. So that's what you're about to watch. Hopefully you're getting some goosebumps about what you're about to see. All right. That's off. I'm showing this because I want you to see some of the underwater stuff too. Just watch how they swim. Doesn't that look like the pool? This is the overall environment. Now you can see it coming to life a little bit for sort of the experience. You see the hashtags, boom, boom, boom. The Australian guy, look how far out he is. Look at the underwater camera. Do you notice any technique? Do you see it? What do you think this green bar is here? Is there technique right there? Is there technique here? Is there technique going on here? Where's the technique? So US is in first. This bar represents the world record line. Look how far ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4 teams are ahead of the world record line, guys. It's amazing. Is there technique there? Okay, so this is the third leg. This is the US. Look at the technique all the way through. Here's the world record line. Uh-oh. France is in first by 0.29 seconds. Uh-oh. Look at this distance between the two. Uh-oh. Look, it's growing. It's growing. Is there technique here? All right, I'm going to pause here. We're going to pick this up with the live real world coverage. The person right here who just went in the water, that person is Alain Bernard, the world record holder, the last leg. He has a body length, almost a body length lead going in. And this is the American swimmer, Jason Leyak. Compelling, huh? So let's pick up and catch the next part with audio. Are you curious how this is going to turn out? By the way, remember Rowdy Gaines? He's calling this in the color commentary. Rowdy Gaines is doing the commentary. Now you can see clearly here, there's only a minute to go, so you can suck it up. But hopefully you're compelled. Remember what this line represents. This is the world record line. Swimmer, 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 swimmer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 relays are ahead of the world record mark. 1, 2, 3 are right close to it. The entire field is at world record level. Nothing like this has ever happened before or since. That's why we're watching this. Okay. Curious what's going to happen?
To make up some ground on Alain Bernard, who stands 6'5" and can absolutely fly.
6'5" is how big he is. Remember what we talked about? Strides? Is that applicable for swimming?
I just don't think they can do it, Dan. I mean, Jason leagues
I just don't think they can do it, Dan. That was Rowdy Gaines.
has been there how many times in his career has he anchored this free relay and medley relay, but
Body length. That's the kiss of death. It's 100.
I just don't think he can do it. He's trying to ride that wave as much as possible.
Bernard is pulling away from him.
Bernard is pulling away from him. He's talking about ride that wave. File that away for later when we talk about technique.
Look at the world record, a 3-time Olympian. World record is absolutely going to be shattered here. The United States trying to hang on to second. They should get the silver medal. Australia is in bronze territory right now, but Lezak is closing a little bit on Bernard. Can the veteran chase him down and pull off a shocker here?
Well, there's no doubt that he's tightening up.
Bernard is losing some ground. Here comes Lezak. Unbelievable at the end. He's done it. The U.S. has done it. He did it. A new world record. Phelps' hopes alive.
That is the most incredible thing ever. I want you to remember the times that I shared with you before. 47.5 was the world record going in. 47.5. 47.5. The Australian guy in the first leg went 47.24. That was in the first leg. In that scene, you saw Lezak catch up to Bernard. These are the strokes. So going out in the first 50, Lezak only took 29 strokes. Bernard took 34. On the way back, Lezak took 34 strokes, and Bernard took 42. Is it possible Bernard tried too hard? Look how close these two are. Imagine how tired they're at right now. Here's something really remarkable. These are the split times. Remember 47.5? Michael Phelps, who isn't considered a good 100 freestyler, almost was 1/100th of a second from beating the world record time at the time. He beat his counterpart. These guys were awash, but look how fast they swam. 47.05, 47.02. That's ridiculously fast. This is still super fast. It's only 0.15 off the world record mark, but he got dusted. This guy swam a 46.63. Unbelievable. This is gold medal worthy right here. The guy who set the world record going in went 0.8 of a second faster. He did his part. Here's the amazing thing that happened. 46.06. 46.06. 46.06. 46.06. This is absolutely insane. To give you more of a frame of reference of how insane that was, and why did we talk about the strokes? 29 strokes, 34 strokes, 34 strokes, 32 strokes. By the way, note the notation, right? These are all, every sport, every field has its own notation. It's really important to get your mechanics down too, and how you report things out and put structure to it. But look how well organized this information is and how easy it is to digest. Here's another thing that's interesting about this. The prior world record was 3:12. Both of these teams beat it by 4 seconds. 5 people on those 2 relays went faster than the world record. So remember, only 5 people before have broken world records. In one race that took 3 minutes and 12 or 3 minutes and 8 seconds. 5 people exceeded that speed on those 2 relays. Another person broke the world record on that, on the first part. So 6 total people in this race went faster. Whereas the previous 27 years, only 5 have broken the world record. Think about that. Here's the other thing too. The world record was broken. So this guy, Eamon Sullivan, broke it. So he went to 47.2 in the relay. And then then Elion Bernard broke his record in the swimming prelims. And then this guy broke his own world record again that he had just set 2 days before in the finals. And he became the world record holder, 47.05. So look how fast it dropped. It's amazing. Nothing like this has ever happened. But I think the biggest thing to think about is, remember how in 27 years, all of those people shaved the time? To give you an understanding of how heroic Jason Lazarek was, he went 1.5 seconds faster than the world record mark in one race. So what did I do? What do we talk about technique? One of the things that's interesting about swimming, and you need to always think about your medium. In swimming, hydrodynamics play, and what you're looking at here is resistance. And one of the things, so this is the stroke. Hopefully you saw some of the techniques here. There's a stroke front-wise. It's important because your balance, see, your balance between and your shoulder rotation is really important because it helps you stay in streamline. And then also how your position lengthwise is also important, help you stay in streamline. What's streamline? This is the basic position. I was a swim professional and I taught competitive swimming for 4 years as a coach. And the number one thing you learn to build everything off of your foundation is streamline. I thought about doing another video and just like the techniques of streamline. It's very easy and hard at the same time. You have to get it just right. How much time did I practice just doing the streamline position, do you think? Spent hours doing that. Hours, 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 making sure your streamline is. Basically, all that is pushing off on the side of the wall, underwater, holding your breath without kicking or anything, and seeing how far you can go. And you keep doing it over and 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 over again to get your streamline right. Whenever you lose your stroke, like, you know, you hear about baseball players losing their swing, you always go back to fundamentals, and then you reinstall your stroke from there. You got to work on the timing. You got to work on the rhythm. Everything is methodical, one step at a time. And that's how you go fast. You don't go fast by skipping steps. You don't go fast by, cutting to the end. And you sure as hell don't go fast by spinning your wheels, spinning cycles. That's the surest way to make sure you go slow. So we're going to talk about, so this is also the streamline position that we talked about. Notice the feet are even covered and the hands are on top of each other. There's a specific way you have to do it too. Technique is important. So let's watch our last video to talk about technique. I think you're going to like this one. We're going full circle. Remember what was the first, what we started with? We started with the speedy system, but none of that, that's also sensationalized by Hollywood. We're going to look at something for 6 minutes together. And I'm going to resist the urge of talking too much through it. Let's see if you can make some good connections here.
In the ultra-competitive world of NASCAR, the difference between winning and losing often comes down to fractions of seconds.
I hope we're highlighting the difference here. Remember, 55 miles an hour, 130, 260. This is the world of 260. I want you to think about that, and you don't think about going from that, you're 55 and you go to 130. You go to 260. There's a completely different way of thinking about it. This is what we're looking at.
That means victories aren't always determined behind the wheel.
Kyle Busch wins the Dodge Challenge.
They can be won or lost in the pits.
For the first time ever, we're going to look at the anatomy of the perfect pit stop. Fasten your seatbelts, because these are some of the most pressure-packed seconds in all of sports.
The anatomy of a perfect pit stop. What's the anatomy of doing our work?
To analyze the perfect pit stop, we packed up the Sports Science Lab and traveled to the Joe Gibbs Racing headquarters in North Carolina, where we recruited one of the most dominant pit teams in all of NASCAR, the crew for number 18, Kyle Busch. In 2008, this all-star pit crew helped Kyle set a record for most wins in a NASCAR season.
Well, the pit crew is real important to winning races. You got to have a strong pit crew to be able to get you off pit road without losing spots, because nowadays with this car that we have, you can't really pass that well.
Nowadays, the guys in the pits aren't your average grease monkeys. They've evolved into finely tuned athletes, plucked from the ranks of elite college sports.
Finely tuned athletes.
And they prepare for races like a team in any other professional sport.
Prepare for races.
And here, in the back of Joe Gibbs headquarters, Kyle Busch's 7-man team, the Jack Man, the Gas Man, the Catch Can Man, the Tire Carrier.
What's happening here? Are these clear roles?
And the Tire Changers will help us break down one of the fastest pit stops in NASCAR. The perfect pit stop starts with the gas man dumping 12 gallons of fuel from his 90-pound tank in about 5 seconds. The jackman has a split second to position the 35-pound jack underneath the car's 3/4-inch jack post. And like an elite quarterback, the jackman has to anticipate his teammates' moves before he drops the jack. If a jackman drops the car too soon before his teammates are done, the driver can speed away with a loose tire.
Think about everything that's here. Anticipate for his teammates. He's got to anticipate. If he does something too early or too late, what happens?
Easily costing a race.
Basically, a pit stop is choreographed chaos. It looks like, wow, there's a lot of people running around.
A pit stop is choreographed chaos. Gibbs Racing Athletic Director. Think about that. Let's watch that again.
Race.
Basically, a pit stop is choreographed chaos. It looks like, wow, there's a lot of people running around. With the cars around you, you've got hoses and tires and fuel, but it's very, very precise.
It's very, very precise.
While each job in a pit crew is crucial, the position with the most pressure is the tire changer. Our Phantom high-speed camera reveals never-before-seen details of front tire changer Nick Odell's skill and athleticism. Nick takes only 1.5 seconds to run from the wall into position. But what makes Nick the star of the...
So first of all, they time just getting into position. What's position? Are you in position? Look at how everybody's laid out.
Pit crew is that he can remove 5 lug nuts in 1 second. That's 200 milliseconds per lug nut. Each lug nut spins a stunning 10 revolutions per second, twice as fast as a helicopter blade. And the high-speed footage reveals that, amazingly, Nick has already moved on to the next lug nut while the previous one is still spinning off.
He's moved on to the next one while the other ones, he's created momentum and then moved on to the next one. Would you sit there and think you had to catch these? What would you do? How do you think he developed the skill and to do this? Isn't this technique? Aren't you looking and seeing technique right here?
After the tire goes on, Nick accelerates off the ground, laterally, with 4 Gs. Almost 2 times as much force as his driver feels going around a turn at 2.
Why is it important that they're measuring it as 4 Gs? Who's measuring it? How do they know to measure it if they don't break things down and say, look, we need to measure the time to position? 4 Gs of force. What is it? What does that have to do? Why are their uniforms designed the way that they are? What about this tool? Why is it designed the way it is?
200 miles per hour. With no wasted motion getting around the car, Nick hits
no wasted motion. That includes in your head overthinking.
The ground and gets to work on the other tire. If Nick and his teammates do their jobs perfectly, it all adds up to a blazing 12.12 seconds. And if you break it down to its finest details, this 7-man team must execute a mind-blowing 73 unique maneuvers.
73 maneuvers in 12.2 seconds. Do you think he could build a manual that documents all of that stuff and have these guys do it? Or is there only way to learn it is to learn by doing? How long do you think it takes them to learn to do 73 maneuvers together as a team in a coordinated fashion at 1.2 seconds? Calculate in your head what the challenges are. How in the world are any of these guys going to be able to do it unless they talk to each other?
less than 13 seconds.
By today's standards, it has to be 13 seconds flat or better. The guys who can do that 8, 9, 10 out of 10 times, they're going to wind up being the winners for the day.
If you compare a pit stop to other plays in sports, like James Harrison's 100-yard interception return in the 2009 Super Bowl, a perfect pit stop is actually faster. To get some perspective on just how difficult it is to get a car back on the track in no time flat, we recruited a former legend in the pits. NASCAR.
That part. Amazing, isn't it? This is why you have to have discipline. This is why you have to have technique. So let's bring this baby home. So what are a few characteristics of speed that you see? Here's a tip. When I call things out, you should be writing them down, because you'd have an answer in front of you if you're doing that, if you're participating in these things and really engaging with it. What does you have to go slow to go fast mean to you now? Does that have any special meaning? How does this relate to our work? What does technique mean to you? How do you think mastering technique can make you go faster? For every one of these things, the technique, the discipline, is to answer these as specifically as you can and write it down. The reason I said it with that kind of firmness is because it's easy to think you don't need to write it down. But if you don't write it down, you're not practicing committing to take action. The other thing too is you don't realize how cluttered your thinking is until you write it down. It's the cluttered thinking that gets in the way. The technique is write it down, write it down, write it down. That's making slides. Write it down. The reason you're struggling so much is you don't have technique. The slides have to come, you have to create, and you have to write it down. You have to write down your charter. You have to write down what you're seeing. You have to write things down. So here's an exercise. Break down that NASCAR video, the one that we did at the end, and make slides of the process. Write down what you're seeing. Again, the tip, pull out the things that I pointed out throughout all of the different exercises. The story of the NASCAR at the beginning, the orient for speed, the centering story, all the stories that I did, use those as a way to weave in to provide it more context. Hint, do this exercise while watching the video. Try to take it down now. So that's it. That is our last conundrum, or the ending of this conundrum. Speed is about technique, discipline, and lots of practice. Hopefully this has given you good food for thought. Look forward to seeing some results from this. Take care.